Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's training on how to nail your numbers. I'm super excited for it. We have a rock star presenter that we've gotten to know each other here pretty well. We've done podcasts and different things together, and she absolutely knows her stuff when it comes to your numbers. And I was excited when we connected to do this. Lisa, it is great to have you here with us today.
Yes, excited to be here.
Awesome. So we're going to dive right in there, and I'm going to turn it over to you, let you tell everybody why you're the expert here to train on this today, and then teach us on how to nail our numbers.
Yes. So basically what I have been doing is I have a company called Beyond Books Solutions, and I have been the owner of the company for almost 6 years now. And we have been working only with construction business owners, anyone from remodelers to builders, commercial projects, investors, helping them see their accurate numbers and make decisions and develop strategies on how to make more money in the business, because ultimately, without knowing your numbers, it's very, very hard to understand what your next step's supposed to be. And we all want to save time, make more money, pay ourselves more. So that's basically what we've been trying to help business owners achieve.
I love it. And I definitely, like I said, I look forward to going over this today and everybody learning how to nail their numbers.
Yes. So today I wanted to focus on 5 that I believe absolute must-haves for nailing your numbers. Just making sure that you track them correctly, that you understand what they mean, and how to make decisions based on those numbers. So right here, I am presenting a free resource that you can actually find on my website, beyondbooksolutions.com. You can download this resource because it has a lot of good information. But I wanted to go into detail on this resource because I feel like it's got all the main parts that you need to nail, especially when you're starting out business or you are thinking about really seriously growing your business. And those you can see right here. It's number 1, setup. I get a lot of calls and requests to set up QuickBooks Online, project management software according to the construction industry. I always work only with QuickBooks Online for several reasons, mainly because I tried all the other software, and I believe QuickBooks Online has the best capacity for you to see your numbers by project and business as a whole and pull up all the reports that will give you a lot of information. So my expertise is in setting up QuickBooks Online for construction and also working with project management software like Buildertrend, JobTread, Procore, Contractor Foreman, all those. So I believe that without a good setup, it is very hard to track your project numbers. The second thing we're going to be talking about is bookkeeping checklist. Basically, if you are performing your own bookkeeping or you have a team member, that is the list of things that you absolutely must do on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, because we're all busy, right? And I know that you did not start a business so you could sit behind QuickBooks. And I know that you started a business because you're passionate, truly passionate about what you're doing. But without that part of the business, you will not grow. You absolutely will not grow. So those are the things that you should either hire somebody to do or you can perform yourself. So the next part will be understanding the reports. That is one part that is, I think there was a statistic that we'll talk about later that 97% of construction business owners never look at their reports because it might be that they're inaccurate. It might be that they don't have them available, but it's just a crazy statistic. Again, if you don't understand your reports, if you're not looking at them, how can you make a decision? Should I buy this purchase this truck or equipment? Should I hire more people? Should I run payroll or work with subcontractors? All of those questions can be answered looking at your numbers. The next thing I would want to talk about is budgeting, which is it's kind of like advanced step forward from when you have all your ducks in a row and you want to make sure that you budget things per project and for business as a whole, and you track your actual cost against your budget. And the last thing is understanding margins and markups, which in all of my talks and every time I interact with people, a lot of people get confused on the difference between markup and margins, and that can get you in trouble really fast. So let's start talking about the setup. The main parts of setting up your QuickBooks is setting up your cost codes, setting up your chart of accounts, and setting up your settings. If you're using only QuickBooks Online, it is very much possible to do a accurate job costing and successfully see your numbers. You need to make sure that you plug in the set of cost codes, and you can download, like I mentioned in that document, I have a link down there to download the set of cost codes that I share with all of my clients. Basically, you would look at that list and you narrow it down to the things that you will be using for your specific business. And those are the cost codes that you're going to plug into the QuickBooks Online under products and services. Then you're going to look at your chart of accounts. It comes in very basic from QuickBooks, so you're going to need to organize it. Again, I have a chart of accounts for construction companies, the general chart of accounts that you would need to fix again and adjust to your company. So those are two steps: create cost codes, create chart of accounts, connect the two. Then you're going to go into the settings, and you are going to open up the settings that you will need for your company, right? I have clients that do fixed price contracts, fixed price plus fee contracts, fixed cost plus fee, and cost plus percentage. So those are all different things. I know. I feel like there's going to be, with years, there's going to be more and more popping up because it used to be just cost plus or fixed price. Now there's all kinds of creative ways of doing things. And I'm going to share as a bonus one strategy that if you can do that strategy successfully, it is the best thing I've seen happening for the cash flow. Most of my clients who are using this strategy, they never struggle with cash flow. What they do is they basically they request a deposit for the project. You can send the bid estimate, but you need to make sure that your contracts are in a very good place, and they outline specifically if there's change orders, if there's any sort of changes, how they're going to be billed. But if you request a deposit for a specific first phase of the project, as you spend that deposit and your bookkeeper is tracking it, when you're done spending that deposit, you are not continuing work until you receive the next deposit. You spend that deposit, you get another one. Can you see how beneficial it is for the cash flow? Instead of basically paying for your client's projects, like financing your client's projects, and you don't even get an interest for that, like you're a bank with no interest. I do understand that those situations are hard for when you have construction loans, you have to deal with the banks and stuff like that. But if you can set up your business to where you have this specific setup, it's priceless. So coming back to the setup, depending on if you are any of those types of construction, you would need to open up settings like billable expenses, markup, progress invoicing, your projects. Sometimes they're locked in. Nowadays with new QuickBooks accounts, they open those up. I do not recommend using tags and classes. That's kind of old school way of doing things, and you can't pull that many reports on that matter. So I do not recommend that. Now, when it comes to using a software that is not QuickBooks, but your project management software, that usually has two parts: your project management part and your financial part. The project management part, I would say that if you want to get a project management software and pay for it just for financial part, don't do it. QuickBooks Online can do that. But if you need it for your project management side, you will benefit from it. Scheduling, documents, bids, lien waivers, I mean, all of that is in there. And most of them connect with QuickBooks Online, like they sync, but you need to understand how they sync, right? You need to make sure that You understand how information flows from one to the other, how to sync cost codes, how to sync projects. A lot of times you create a project, it will not create the project in QuickBooks. It'll create sub-customers, so you need a workaround. If you create invoice in QuickBooks, it will not flow into Buildertrend, JobTread, and all those. So you got to know how to use those, sync to QuickBooks, and then match things up. So that is why we offer setup services, because it's just it might get a little bit complicated on it.
Well, yeah, real quick on that. Like that is where everything goes awry. Like if you don't have that solid foundation with whatever software you're using, that's where the problems start. Because if you're feeding data in and you think you're doing the right thing, but you don't have it set up right, you're just going to get all crap out. And I love that. That was what you just covered there was worth the price of admission here. That was awesome.
Yeah, they're not, they just won't be accurate. Your records are not going to be accurate, and you will be spending so much time plugging in all the information. And in the end, you're like, I don't know if I'm looking at the right, numbers. And that's kind of sad. So the next thing to talk about is that bookkeeping checklist. I'm not going to go into a complete detail. You can download this whole document and kind of have a checklist of what you got to do. But I just wanted to specifically mention that you absolutely have to keep all your receipts. You have to record transactions per project, per cost code. You absolutely have to reconcile your accounts, because if you don't reconcile and you just record here and there, you will be missing a lot of expenses that are tax deductible, a lot of project costs, especially if you're a cost plus and you're missing some of the things that you spend money on. You can't get reimbursed for it if you are not recording it and sending it in the invoice to your client. So you need to make sure you check all of those boxes for daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually tasks. The next important thing that I wanted to talk about is understanding your reports. Here's that statistic. 92.4% of builders are potentially looking at inaccurate financial reports. That is just very sad situation. And I know I've had so many clients who come to me and they're just like, I don't think the numbers make sense. I mean, one of the stories that I like to tell is the client who came to me. He's been using Buildertrend and QuickBooks Online, and he asked me to just audit their project. He's like, I don't think our project makes sense. And they had a bookkeeper, construction bookkeeper, which makes it even more sad. And when I started auditing the projects in Buildertrend, I realized that none of the numbers were making sense. They were not getting paid for all the expenses that they've been incurring. The invoices that were sent out to customers were absolutely incorrect, and they were cost plus percentage. So after that, we got in and we had to clean up Buildertrend, and then we realized that everything that was put into QuickBooks was completely inaccurate. So we had to clean up those records. In the meantime, the clients started filing lawsuits against them because they started invoicing them for the things that haven't been, they haven't been paid for, and the clients were upset. Of course, they were upset about it. So at the end, it all worked out. They settled the cases, but who needs this kind of headache or reputation, right? Let's get things set up correctly and actually look at the right numbers. So right here, I kind of outlined for people who are unsure, what am I looking at balance sheet? I'm outlining what the assets are, what liabilities are, what is your equity, and kind of how to track. Because a lot of people think that, oh, I'm paying a loan, so this whole payment is going to be tax deductible. Well, it's not going to be. It's going to your balance sheet entry into your liabilities. The only thing that's tax deductible and deductible from your income is the percentage in interest that you're paying. So little things like that add up quick. Or I have a lot of developers who have been using their profit and loss to track all of their building costs. Well, that is not how it's supposed to be. It's your asset that you are basically improving. So it has to go into the assets on the balance sheet. And as soon as you sell that asset, that's where you will be moving things around through the journal entries. So you got to be very careful. And then the income statement, also known as profit and loss statement, That is one of the main reports to look at, especially when you can pull up profit and loss by project. You would be able to see business as a whole, how it's doing, right? You have your cost of goods sold. Well, you have your income first, right? Your top line. And everyone is always so concentrated on the top line. I'm always concentrating on the bottom line. How much am I taking home? I might be making $1 million in sales, but if I'm taking home $1,000, it ain't worth it to be in business. So when I hear like, oh, I have a $10 million company, I'm like, okay, that's not telling me much, right? About how successful your company is. So the top line, we have a income account, and then we have your cost of goods sold, which are direct costs associated with the project. Then we have all other expenses that are overhead, and then your net profit. That is what we want to see. Of course, net profit is going to be before tax, but that's better than looking just at the gross profit and forgetting about all the expenses that you got to pay out of pocket if you don't charge enough. The statement of cash flow is another very important one to look at. Again, we talked a little bit about cash flow, but people don't realize how much really there is, how much you can do to improve your cash flow. Things like having the right contracts in place, invoicing often and early, getting certain payment late fees or deposits in place, like all of those things. You have to monitor your accounts payable. Who do you owe money? Who owes you money? Your receivables. A lot of times I see construction business owners making a mistake of doing bank account accounting, basically looking at their checking account thinking, oh, I got all that money. That's great. I have $30,000, right? What they didn't realize is that they had $50,000 of bills owed to subcontractors. So really you were in the negative. So looking at the reports is way more important than bank account accounting. And of course, work in progress reports, that is for people who are doing work in progress accounting. But in a sense, even if you're looking at just work in progress as you're moving along with the projects and you are tracking everything live every week and you look at the reports, okay, we poured the concrete, okay, we did the framing, let's see if we're over budget, under budget, where are we at this phase of the project, that would be extremely helpful. So moving on to budgeting. Budgeting is important, not just for projects, but business as a whole. Of course, when you are doing projects, especially your fixed cost projects, you would provide budgets to your client. And the most overlooked feature, I would say, in this case with fixed price contracts, is that people are not looking at their budget versus actual. We think that when we create an estimate, it's perfect, that's what it should be, but things never go like that. There's always things that pop up, materials change in price, your labor takes longer than you expected. I mean, you name it. You have to track what you actually spending, plus what you actually have outstanding versus what you estimated. Because if you underestimate it, the next time you're building an estimate, it is going to be the same problem. And if you don't catch it on time, at the end of the year, it's going to be too late to fix anything when you're doing your taxes. That's why another reason it's so important to do bookkeeping on a weekly, monthly basis, because you don't want to lose a chance to fix your problems as they happen. You don't want your CPA telling you, oh, cool, you're not going to pay much taxes because you didn't make much money. You're like, what do you mean I didn't make much money, right? Although usually people are happy about not paying taxes, but there should be better strategies. You should be making lots of money and do the tax strategies. So when it comes to budgeting as business as a whole, you also have to create a budget for every overhead transaction, all the things that you are buying, spending money on. You have to budget how much you're going to pay in bookkeeping fees, how much you're going to pay in marketing. Can you afford to put some money into advertising, right? All of those things have to be decided on. And I actually have a link in here for the budgeting spreadsheet that I have created for my clients. And it's so nice. Clients are actually aware of what's going on, right? If we're budgeted $2,000 for marketing, why are we spending $5,000? Or we decided to do ads budget for 5,000, but we only spent 2,000. Okay, great. We still have 3,000 spent until the end of the year, right? And you should track those numbers at least on a monthly basis. The last thing I wanted to talk about is understanding the difference between margins and markup. So a lot of times people think that if they charge, let's say 50% markup, that at the end they're going to receive 50% of the project price, right? And that is not the case. Like if you charge 50% markup, your margins are going to be, I believe, 33%. And to get the 50% margin, like at the end, I made 50% of that project, right? $1 million project, you made $500,000. To do that, you have to mark your project 100% markup. And a lot of people think this is insane. How can you do that? For smaller projects, you absolutely can do that. For bigger projects, it gets a little more complicated, especially when you work with banks and stuff. But your markup should be determined by how much money you need to make and what is your percentage of overhead. Those two things is what your markup consists of. So you have to look at your numbers and understand what you need to charge, right? If you're charging 20% markup, but you're looking that your overhead is actually 20% of your earnings, you are going to get zero in your net profit because that overhead is going to eat up all that extra money. You don't want that to happen to you. First, you got to decide this is how much money I need to make. Okay, for that, this is how much in sales I need to make and apply this kind of markup. Now, with the margins, right? Markup is basically a percentage of the cost, right? The cost associated with building a project. That's what markup is. Your margin is the percentage of the actual total price of it. And here I'm giving a good example, and I can't see this. I'm gonna get closer. I was given an example in numbers just to give you an idea. So if you're considering $700,000 contract that requires $550,000 to build and include $150,000 of profit, that percentage is at 21%, right? It's 150 of that 700,000. But the markup that you have to apply to receive that kind of margin is 27%, because that is the percentage of that cost. So you got to be very careful when you really calculate your markup to get the margins that you need to receive. And then I included some of the financial benchmarks here as well, as that your fixed expenses, they should be at 15%. That is your overhead, right? Everything that I see above 15%, no good. You either got to cut your overhead or you got to increase your sales. Your gross margin, I mean, it differs. These are the minimums that I put in there, 25% for home builders and 35% for remodeling, but I've seen people do 50% gross profit as well. And, the higher the better. You have to learn sales skills, you have to learn marketing skills, you have to provide quality work, and you will definitely get there. Just make sure that when you consider markup, please do not look at industry standards. Please do not look at other guys who are doing the same business in your area. You don't know what kind of overhead they have, what kind of insurance they have. Are they using subcontractors or labor? Are they doing any sort of different projects, then you don't know what their overhead percentage is. You don't know how much money they want to make. So if you're thinking this guy charges 15% markup, I cannot charge more, I assure you, you can. And if that is the number that you need to have, looking at your financials, that's what you need to have. I think that's all I've got.
Awesome. That was definitely a masterclass. That I know I learned a lot. I'm sure everybody out there listening, anybody watching this on the replay, has learned a lot as well. Once again, can you tell everybody where to go find this resource? We'll have it in the notes, but I want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to go get this.
Yes, you just go to my website, beyondbooksolutions.com, and you go into free resources. There's actually different free resources, but this one is the best because it's got all kinds of links, all the things that I'm using with my clients. I just wanted to explain what all this entails, give some tips and advices. People can also, get a hold of me on Instagram, YouTube. I put a lot of helpful information there every day, every week. So I feel like it's benefited a lot of people. I get a lot of good comments. Here to help. If you have more questions, you're welcome to contact me as well. I just like to present information in like short and on point. Just not much chatter, just the things that I believe made the most difference in my clients' businesses. It's improving their cash flow, increasing their markup and their profit margin, making sure they see all of their numbers, they're accurate, that they can use their projects management software successfully. All those things are the most important ones that I've seen make a difference.
Awesome. And I can vouch. Your content is on point on Instagram, anywhere, YouTube as well. So anybody out there, make sure you go also check that out. Download the free resource. And thank you for taking the time in doing this, because this is going to be a huge asset that everybody in the construction industry can use and go out and help become profitable, help understand how to become profitable. I love it. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Glad to bring some value.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. If you're watching on the replay, thank you for watching the replay. And also, make sure you go take advantage of this free resource. It's awesome when people in the industry put out stuff that all it is there to add value and be a resource. So until our next training, go out there and rock and roll.